We tell a lot of our clients, like, we give them a goal of having an evening walk every day, not just because it helps with digestion, but it literally helps regulate your nervous system.
Yes, like connecting with nature, fueling your body, reducing stimulants like caffeine and alcohol and things like that.
Hey, you guys, welcome back. Strong, well-fed, outspoken, baby. It is time for another episode. If you guys are joining for the first time, you are here with, well, the dynamic duo. I mean, we pretty much have called
Double Trouble.
Double Trouble. Bro, I love that one. But yes, if you guys are new, my name is Rusty, or Coach Frizzle, or the Miss Frizzle of Fitness.
And I'm Coach Nell. One and done.
One and done. But honestly, I think Double Trouble is got to be our thing. Did you ever play that board game? That was a board game, right? What am I thinking?
Trouble was.
That's what I'm thinking of, with the dice, and you click it, and you
and it's like in the middle, and then you move around. Yeah.
Although
isn't that also called Sorry?
Yeah, I think when they rebranded it. But if you're an OG, like obviously we are, I can still see the game too. I mean, I'm pretty sure my mom still has it, but it was in like a purple. Mine was in like a purple folder, and it had like the men on the outside like running away. And yes. I can see it perfectly.
The little like plastic thing with the stick legs.
Yeah. They almost look like knockoff Pac-Man.
Yes. Yeah. Like tall and skinny.
Yeah. I honestly love that game. I remember playing it a lot with my dad, and he would always, every time he got like a number that would come close to where my figure was, he would always like like the Mario, like
put the soundtrack in for it.
Yeah, or he would do Jaws, like it was a good time.
You know, this actually leads in really well to our topic today.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
A lot of what I was going to bring to the table was like going analog, and board games is one of those things, right? So what are we talking about today?
Yes, you guys. So today, actually, you know, we often talk about, if you guys have an idea for a topic, if there's something you guys would like us to talk on, you know, that's not necessarily part of our Q&A episodes, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure last week we said we would do a Q&A episode this week. We're gonna push that off a week because, again, you guys messaged us. One of you guys, you know what? Shout out to Marianne. She's been an awesome follower of ours for a long time, a client of ours too, but she messaged and said,
listener.
Yeah, what up, baby? I actually want to read out, let me get it the exact way she put it, because I think it's something we can all kind of relate to.
And especially with what's going on in the world right now, I think it's really, really relevant, always relevant, but especially right now.
Yeah. So she messaged and hey, I just wanted to throw this out there because you and Nell are both such badasses. Thank you very much, by the way. You guys have such a wealth of knowledge, and the world feels very heavy right now. So I'm wondering if you could do a podcast on regulating our nervous system and how I think this was a mistake, but she basically says, and how we can and should be regulating our nervous system to benefit us.
Yeah, especially like as a general population. Mm-hmm. I think in certain contexts, we talk about this a lot. Like I work pretty closely with like military and police and and medics. They see horrible situations day after day. So they specifically have small amounts of training for regulating their nervous system. I teach yoga. You come to yoga. It's kind of part and parcel. But what about us just in our everyday lives? Because things impact us really deeply, and we kind of just have to keep going. And it's not always something we're managing well.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. You know, I think for a lot of people, they think about stress in terms of like the big obvious things, like work-related stress, relationship-related stress, political stress. In today's
or like huge events, right? We often go, "Oh, that's stressful. I should deal with that."
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. These big monumental things that come up, a doctor's appointment, whatever. They're like all short term, but like very big. We tend to see them. We don't think about the day-to-day stress that we're carrying. And I would actually argue that it's the day-to-day stress that is actually keeping our nervous system in fight or flight, not necessarily these one-off occasions.
I went on a deep dive into like compound stress because it's 2026. So 2025 was a really hard year for me. I experienced a lot of loss, a lot of shifts, a lot of health changes. And it was just like bang, 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 one after another. And I said to my husband, I feel like I can't process the things that have happened and more stuff keeps happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes part of the issue is it's those small things and we haven't had time to sit with them, and then it just adds up, and then you find yourself crying in the shower, or seeing something online and it's impacting you in like a really physical or really visceral way, and you go, whoa, I don't know if I'm okay right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, I think, especially with Marianne's question, she says the world feels really dark right now because we are so, forget about the work stress we're carrying, the relationship stress we're carrying, the health stress we're carrying. The world feels like you're opening up social media and you're just flooded with it all the time. It doesn't matter what side you sit on. We're not getting into that today. It doesn't change the fact that there's so much trauma happening, and it can feel like even the things that you might be using as an escape, like Instagram, like I just want to
Scrolling,
see some
yeah.
cat videos, man. And now, I'm being face to face with things all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that we use for quote downtime, we're
Mhm.
actually not getting a break, and we are exposed to so much more information than the average human 10, 20 years ago had to process. And we're not
Yeah,
designed to process things at that rate.
yeah,
And the internet's a really fun place now where when you consume certain media, you get more of that. And
yeah,
so if you're not stepping away, you don't get a break from it, and you don't have time to think about like, how is this affecting me? And that
yeah.
adds up hard and fast.
Oh, yes. You mentioned something really critical here. So, first of all, guys, when we're talking about stress, and of course, yes, you could categorize your stress in different ways, work, relationships, everything. When we're talking about allostatic stress, that is literally the definition for stress as a whole. Because remember, although we're classifying stress in terms of relationship, work, politics, blah, 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 your body doesn't see the difference. It's not like, oh, yeah, this is stress from my man, and this is stress from someone at work. Your body just sees stress, period. Now, your body is designed to be able to deal with stress in the sense of, our nervous system should be able to help us regulate. It should be able to bring us down. When we're talking about these very short bursts of stress, what's happening in between that is, sure, stress hits, you go into fight or flight mode, but over time, your body helps you, right, through its own endorphins and neurotransmitters and things like that. It helps you get back into a rest and digest or a calm state. But when we are constantly around stress, as Nell was, saying before, especially for like paramedics and things like that, your body is never getting into that calm state. And that is really, I think, what's happening for a lot of people right now, which is why this topic is so important. Because if you're not able to ever get yourself back down into that calmer state, if we're just living 24/7 in fight or flight mode, and now we're not even talking about the fact that a lot of y'all, like Nell, love coffee,
For the
right?
record, I have cut back.
Yeah, I know, I know. That's always going to be a joke on my end,
I've
but
gone full days without caffeine now.
it is crazy. It is crazy. I'm just always going to think about you from like years ago.
It's true.
Um,
Honestly, that's what people know about me. I think it's
yeah.
still in my Instagram bio.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's like cereal for me. Like people, I had someone the other day ask me like how many boxes of cereal I eat a week, and I'm like, bro, I don't eat that much anymore. Like I know
But
we
the
talk,
anymore part, right?
yeah, anymore, but that's why, because you share a story and then people associate it, which I have no issue with whatsoever.
Right,
But
exactly.
But honestly, guys, this is a real thing. If you're carrying the emotional and mental stress that isn't coming down because you've got work and relationships and then social media, then you're also having your energy drinks and your coffees. Your body is literally, excuse me, from a mental and emotional perspective, and then just like a physiological perspective, always stressed out. We're wondering why our anxiety is so high, why we're not sleeping good, why more people than ever are being diagnosed with ADHD. These are all reasons why.
And like I think the good news is a a body that is functioning well does downregulate. It
Yeah,
does it can
absolutely.
handle stress and then it goes back into what it needs to do. The issue is when we're not in that situation anymore. We're
Yeah.
compounding what we're doing that's making things a little bit harder, or we're experiencing. Here's the thing: stress is different to everyone. You and I can go through the exact same event or
Yes.
the
Yes.
consume the exact same thing, and
Yep.
our bodies will physically handle it very differently. Our
Big
brains will
trauma.
process it very differently based
Yep.
on our past, based on all our experiences. And so if you're in a state that is elevated and you're kind of feeling stuck there, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
How do you kind of step away from that?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I read a book called, and this is actually one of my favorite ways to help myself regulate, is by reading things that actually challenge my thinking mentally. Lately, I've been into reading a lot of books on slowing down and being present for life. And so I read a book that honestly I classify as like life changing for me. It's called Stop Missing Your Life by Corey something. We'll put it in the show notes if you guys are interested in it. But he talks, the first few chapters, he actually like gives a warning on, because he says like these are methods he uses with his clients in person, and having like a trained psychologist with you as you go through them is really important. But anyways, he talks about trauma, same thing like what you just said, Nell. Like most people consider trauma to be these massive events, but in reality, we can have a lot of little micro traumas in our life. But what makes a trauma is actually how somebody relates to it. One person
Exactly.
might find something very traumatic, and the other person might be like, this actually didn't really affect me at all. So I think understanding, first of all, like what is stressing me out is huge. And like just because your significant other or your friend or your parent or your mom isn't stressed by it doesn't mean you should also carry shame for feeling stressed by it. Doesn't mean there's
Absolutely.
anything wrong with you. Because I used to get in my head about this, like why am I so bothered by this and they're so not?
And like I grew up in a first responder house. And
Oh
so,
yeah,
you know, it my parents were both on calls taking ambulance calls and stuff. And then they would come home and they would, kind of they're not allowed to talk to us about it, right? But I was always kind of privy to what that looked like. And then I wondered like as an adult, am I not handling things well because I didn't have that resiliency that I saw from them, right?
yes, yes, definitely. And I mean, even look at it at the time, right? Your parents had literally years and years and decades of building that resiliency, and here you are.
And their parents, right? You're not showing your kids your darkest self, right?
Yes, yes,
Like
yes. Because I think for some people, actually, if you have experienced, maybe not as adults now because we get it, but if you were a kid and you experienced, actually, let me just say, I remember, and see, this shows you how it never leaves you. I remember when my grandma passed away, it was very hard for all of us, but of course, for my mom, it's her mom. And I remember my mom was so in such a dark place naturally, but being such a kid, and my mom was always still to this day like full of life, full of like just bubbly sunshine, saying to her after a couple weeks, I mean, I was a kid, I didn't know how to phrase it any better, but like, will you ever be happy again?
Mhm.
And that in a way, like I never forgot that, because that was almost a trauma to witness.
Yeah.
Right, that's a very big stressor even as a kid. So different phases of life are going to bring different stresses as well. What we wanted to give you guys really was like ways we deal with regulating our nervous system, what honestly like works for us, like not what social media tells you should do. We're not even going to talk about supplements on this podcast episode. We're going to talk about just like practical things that we do that have worked with us, and some
Yeah,
things
like
might be
day in, day
simple.
out, the things that we spend time doing to help with processing stress, relieving stress, detaching from because really primarily we're online for work. That's
Yep.
hard to take a break from, right? And so
Oh yeah.
how do you kind of separate those two? And
Yep.
separating things can actually be really helpful when you're dealing with stress,
Yeah.
right? I had a drama teacher, and he's like, leave it at the door, like take your luggage, leave your baggage at the door. You're coming in here and you're in this moment, and that kind
Yep.
of stuck with me in the sense that like sometimes it's okay to be present. That will be there for you when you need to pick it back up.
Yep. Definitely. Definitely. I like that. I like that. Leave it at the door. I
Hmm.
think there's something to be said. Obviously, that was a great visual cue and separation, especially from like a classroom setting. But I actually think separation is massively beneficial. It's one of the ways I regulate my nervous system. Another word for separation could honestly be boundaries.
Hmm.
So the first thing I'm going to say is like, I mean, in order for this to work, you have to understand what is causing you stress. You have to have an idea of like what is adding the stress to your life so that we can understand how we're going to deal with removing that stress or taking it away. So, like Nell said, like we're online all the time, all the time. Our phones are literally business tools. So, for me, a big thing that I've been doing for quite a few years now is I keep all of my notifications on my phone on. I literally keep my phone on silent. It never rings, even for a phone call. It drives my man up the wall because he will call me and I'm like, oh, like my phone's on silent. So unless it's turned up, I miss his calls like all the time and I'll call him back. But I don't care. For me, I found that just hearing that beep all the time, that feeling,
Constantly
that
pulls me,
buzz,
right?
yes, even if I was having a conversation with a girlfriend, just having that buzz automatically made me think of work because my work happens through my phone. So I keep my phone 24/7 on silent. And
See, I that's really interesting because I took it for me, it's not the sound, it's
yep,
seeing the notification bubbles on
come up.
things.
Yep,
So I turned all those off,
yep,
but I do keep my ringer on because phone calls to me are help me de-stress, right? I
yep.
love chatting for hours with people, but a text will it just kind of gets me on edge. So like my friends know, be
Um,
like, "Oh, if you want to hang out, call me."
yeah, actually, okay, hold on. Let me ask you about that then. If
Mhm.
so, if like Instagram,
Yeah,
if you get a notification on Instagram, but you don't have the notification pop up on your screen unless you open the app, that's where you see the
correct.
notification. Okay, I have that as well. But I guess then if your phone's on ring though, even though the notification doesn't pop on the screen, it doesn't make a noise either.
No. So I went into
Um,
all my settings for each app that kind of was like TikTok, Facebook, the ones that you're
yeah,
like constantly spending time on. And I turned off the notifications
all
for
of
them.
them.
So it's
Yep.
not until I actually go in the app that I can see that I have things to
Okay,
deal
maybe
with.
I'll look at doing that then. Because Steph has asked me, like, isn't there a way you can just like have it so if I call you, it rings? And I'm like, no, there's no way for me to do that. But maybe there
You
is. But
probably
there's,
I did also previously pay for an app, and
yeah,
it was actually another coach in the industry that told us about this app, and I was like, I'm doing that. Because I could turn certain things on and off at certain times, and like my phone would just black them out. Like
yep.
they were just kind of faded out. And so, because the other thing, I teach yoga, and there's nothing that drives me more nuts than when you're in the zone and then like
The light comes
something
on.
pings or light comes on it, right?
Yeah,
So I could turn it off or be like, oh, I'm clocked out for the day. I'm not answering, my Slack messages or whatever. And I
yep.
could turn them on at like 6 p.m. or turn it off at 8 a.m. and do that. So that worked for a while too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna check into that because as much as I have all my notifications off, I also don't have like the notifications on the screen. So
Mm,
I think I could probably turn the sound back on then and it won't ping. So I'm gonna double check that.
yeah,
But
maybe worth it. While we're on the topic of phone, I
yeah,
actually make a point of leaving my phone in certain rooms. Like
yep. Preach. Leave it at the
like
door.
and I think because we're millennials, we're pretty good about it when we're in social settings and stuff, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
out with the girls at dinner, or you're out on a date, you kind of put the phone away. You're not constantly on it, right? Because we're kind of raised that way. But I do see with younger generations, they're on it all the time, even in social settings. And so like I have a breakfast like nook island. I'll
Yeah.
scroll my phone on there while I'm eating or whatever. But if I eat in my dining room, it's like no phone zone.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
having certain areas of the house, or if you want to connect with your family a little bit more, doing like phone free times, that can
Mhm.
be really, really helpful too, because especially if you're raising teenagers, they don't get a break from things
Yeah. Yeah.
when they're on their phones all night. And like this is coming from a girl who was on MSN till 3 a.m. most nights, right?
And MSN, yes, till 3 a.m. Yeah, yeah. To the point that you want to talk about stress. I remember because our computer used to be in the basement. And like if I was up later than my mom, but like she would get mad if we were like up
Yeah.
late,
Yeah, you're
late.
not supposed to do this.
Yeah. And I could hear like when she would wake up and I could hear her like stomping through the house to come to the stairs. I'm like, oh no, I'm in
Oh,
trouble.
no,
I'm in
no, no,
trouble. I'm in
no.
trouble.
Throw a blanket over the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Good times, man. But yes, I do that as well. I leave my phone in another room. So one other boundary with my phone that I've created is that after 6 p.m., I'm done. I try not to go on social media at all. I do no work. It's period. There's nothing that I need to be doing from that aspect because I've noticed that even when I do like fun things for work, like I'm like, oh, I'm just putting together a client's program, it still just gets my mind going too much and I
Mhm.
can't get into as calm a state as I want to.
It's true.
So
Yeah. I
I
agree. Because even
literally,
like opening programs to do things on,
yep.
depending on what that notification says, I'm suddenly pulled in a different direction.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not to mention like the blue light and all that stuff,
Mhm.
right? But I do. I leave my phone in like the kitchen. When I go to bed, I do not sleep with my phone.
No,
My
I
phone
have a
usually stays
technology
in the
free
kitchen.
bedroom, truly.
Yes, yeah. It's yeah. We have no TV in our bedroom. No. it makes a really big difference. So, like for me, like I said, boundaries is a really big thing. And specifically, again, when you ask yourself, first of all, where is the stress coming from? The phone boundary that I created was based off of work because a lot
And
of my stress was work related.
And I would say this is a more recent boundary because you and I have been working together on and off for years. And I
Yeah.
know, like, back early on, we were messaging at all hours.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, like, more recent, like, we're like, this is not a boundary that I should let go of, right?
Yep.
Like,
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So figure out, even the rest of the tips for today, you need to figure out where your stress is coming from, what that is. One, you need to create a boundary around that stress, right? Because as soon as we have boundaries, period, it allows us to have a frame of reference of like what is, honestly, I'm going to say it, acceptable and what is
mhm.
not. There are times, right, where we can use those terms and they are actually very beneficial.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with setting a boundary as
Mhm.
long as it is a boundary that you feel serves you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, you know, one thing that I also started doing that was really big was actually naming the state that I was in.
Mm,
For a long time, I think I carried this notion of like, I'm having anxiety, don't say anything about it. Like, hold it in. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling pressured. I'm feeling rushed. I'm feeling nervous. I have fear. All of these feelings that I'm naming right now were all feelings that we're associated with like an elevated nervous system, right? Me
mhm,
being in a fight or flight state. You're not going to be in a fear-based state and be rest and digest. So, I would have all these things, but it would feel like scary even to name them out loud because then I think for if you guys are like me, it felt like I was giving light to that. It was admitting that something was wrong with me. And so it was like just hold it inside, breathe through it, and it will be fine. But it
mhm.
like it didn't go away. I think a lot of people operate in like a chronic state of stress without realizing it. And you can't name what stresses you out. You can't regulate what stresses you out if you don't recognize it.
It's true. And being brutally honest with yourself is important here, right? Like you're talking in terms of the the internal emotions that come with it. But for
Yeah.
me, a lot of where my stress was coming from was like fear of judgment, fear of putting
Yeah.
myself out there because I did not have an internet presence prior to becoming an online coach at
Mhm.
all. I was a theater kid. I'll put myself on stage. That is great to me. That will stress other people out. But
Yep.
it was like I'm in that moment and I didn't know how to do that online. And so
Yeah.
being brutally honest about like I'm scared to do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like putting a title to what I was feeling was really, really beneficial in helping me navigate how to come down from that elevated state all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mentioned like bringing light to it for me felt scarier, but I realized that by naming it and bringing light to it, it actually killed it. Because the dark,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, and maybe this is from my like faith background, but like the darkness to me is always actually where things seem worse than they are than when you bring light to something. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, like naming it, telling somebody else how I was feeling brought light to it, but it also actually made it feel less threatening. I don't know what it was, but as soon as I would like talk to Steph and say like I am having anxiety and he would say tell me what's going on and I would name what it is, all of a sudden it didn't seem actually as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I was creating in my head always seemed a lot worse than when I actually got it out.
Mm-hmm.
Plus
And
it like sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, speaking of getting it out, I mean, you and I both journal. That's another great way to do that. It's another thing
Yes.
that I definitely use to kind of process even the small stuff in my day,
Yeah.
right? So if you don't have someone you feel you can lean on in that capacity, that's another great way to kind of implement that skill set
Yeah.
with just yourself.
Yeah. If you're feeling overstimulated, no, no, not that, not necessarily overstimulated, but if you are feeling like you are constantly in a state of fight or flight, if you're constantly feeling stressed out all the time, I think that we often as a society think that like labels are a negative thing. But in this case, I actually think labels reduce intensity. They bring like the core of what's going on to the forefront. Being able to say, I am overstimulated. I am having anxiety. I am sad. I am scared. I am lonely. Having these labels, they're powerful because they bring awareness. And that awareness, again, is what allows us to regulate because you, like I said, you can't regulate what you don't first recognize.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the speaking it out loud, the journaling, like Nell said, I think is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, you said it already. I do. I love journaling. It feels like a brain dump.
Yeah, very much so. Like if you looked at my journal right now, you'd be like, it's a hot mess. Sometimes there are these huge gaps where I don't write anything because
Yep.
I don't feel like I necessarily need it. And then, there's like 3 pages of a letter to
Mhm.
someone or myself or whatever. And then there's like a what looks like a grocery list of like
Yeah.
feelings or or
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so it's personal for you, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it needs to be. Sometimes it's just an affirmation. Sometimes it's like today was a good day, thumbs up. Like
Yes.
it can be whatever you need it to be. But I
Yeah.
used to struggle with journaling because I felt like a dear diary every single day I
Yeah.
have to use
Totally.
the same template and I would
Yep.
fall apart just like
Yep.
anything, right? We've talked about goal setting and stuff. You gotta you gotta work within your own skill set and your own wheelhouse. And so I let go of that. And
Yes.
if I need it, it's there. It just sits on my nightstand. Sometimes it's every night, other like once a month, 4 months later I pick it up and that's okay.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. It's hilarious you say that because I also was never a dear diary kind of girl. I was a dear bitch kind of girl. Actually, do you watch Bridgerton?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, of course you do.
Dear gentle reader.
Yes, I'm like even that. Like sometimes, I think actually I've written a few Instagram posts
But that's
sharing
the
with
thing, right? Like sometimes I do start it like that, and then other
that.
times it's like just
Yeah,
chaos goblin.
I think one of the things that I love about journaling is that it feels like it lowers the volume in my mind.
Hmm.
It like when we talk about brain dumping, and actually I really like journaling before bed for that reason, right? Even if I'm not like stressed out because of world events or a fight with staff or something like that, even if I'm just running on high because that day has been so productive and maybe I did work a little bit later and my brain is just going, right? It feels loud. Everything feels loud in my body. It feels loud in my mind. It feels loud. Journaling feels like it lowers the volume. And
Hmm.
again, like I think especially before bed, if we try and go from like a dysregulated state into like a regulated state without any transition, maybe we're not fully fight or flight, but it kind of keeps us there overnight. Like, have you ever had those sleeps where you feel like you were just kind of restless still while you slept?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you toss and turn, you look at the clock, and like, how's it 4 a.m.? Have I even been asleep
Yes.
yet?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the worst. Yeah.
Which I
Um,
think for me, I do really well with physical wind down. So,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we've talked about this, I think, probably back when we talked about circadian rhythm and stuff, but
Yeah.
like a sleep routine. It
Yeah.
doesn't have
So
to be
huge.
big, but that's a huge one for me.
Mhm.
Obviously, we both work out. That just physical movement can be helpful. I
Mhm.
find if I start the day with really high, whatever, anxiety, emotions, feelings, regardless of what I do, whether it's a walk outside, going to the gym, doing some yoga, I always feel more prepared to take on the next thing after I've
Yep.
moved my body.
Yes, 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 yes. And actually, I think that's a great point because so many of us, like, we try to think ourselves into a calm state. Truly, like, so many of us, we notice that we are anxious, we're fear based, whatever it is, and we try to think ourselves into a calm state. But our nervous system isn't really, or our nervous system is more, sorry, physiological, not necessarily logical,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So,
like you can sit there and say, okay, calm down, let this go.
yeah,
It's not happening. Your
yeah.
body can physically help you do that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Physical inputs, physical outputs, I think they change our nervous system state faster than mental affirmations. And we're big mental affirmation
Hmm.
girlies, like we really are. But physical things like I know that I do is like so contrast therapy, I guess you would call it. So even when I am in Canada in the wintertime, going from like a warm house to, I know this sounds crazy, y'all don't judge me, but like literally going outside bare feet against the cement, not long enough to like make me sick. Okay, everybody calm down. But
You
that
could not pay me
contrast,
to do this.
well, you also live in like the depths of hell. Okay.
I think you
Like,
mean the North Pole.
yeah, yeah. I guess hell would be hot, but
I'll take that.
it's so cold. But honestly, even like where you are, it's so cold. Even if you just went from inside to outside with a
It's true.
coat
Yeah.
on, it would be enough of contrast therapy that it kind of gets you out of your mind. I find going out in like big breaths in the contrast of like warm to cold huge. I mean, it's the whole idea of an ice bath, even.
It's true. And like even working with like a therapist or a psychologist, if you have really high levels of anxiety, you're experiencing panic attacks. What do they say? It's like the five rule: five sights, five tastes, five, right?
Yes.
It's that connection piece. It's that physical, what is happening to my body.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what all of those are? For a while, I did know what they
No, I
are.
don't know. Not off the top of my head.
How would we even look this up? The five
Is it
sense
five? I'm not even sure.
calming technique. It came up right away.
Oh,
Oh,
perfect.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sure.
Yes. So five things you see, four things you feel, three things you hear, two things you smell, and one thing you taste.
There. Okay.
Shift from racing thoughts to physical surroundings. So again, five things you see, four things you feel, three things you hear, two things you smell, one thing you taste. Another thing that I will do for the contrast therapy is hands under like cold water in the sink or like cold water right against my face, like cold water against my face. I find
Really
it
little
actually very
ice
calming.
cube bath.
Yeah, honestly, I do. I find it very calming.
And you see, and this is why we talk about you experience things differently. That's
Yeah.
so calming for you. I've had reconstructive surgery on my hands, and that was something I had to do as part of my recovery for
Interesting.
nerve
Yeah.
damage. So the minute I feel any sort of cold sensation on my hands, my body
Yeah.
immediately, if you're
Tenses.
listening, yeah, if you're listening, I'm like scrunched up, and so it actually elevates my stress because of
Interesting.
past things that have happened. Right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so see guys, like this is where what works for
Finding
some
what works
people
for you,
will
exactly.
literally not work for other people.
Yeah, like you mentioned how one thing that really works for you is like reading books that challenge you. I only read for fun because that helps me like I am just taking time to do something I enjoy. I love
Yep.
a thriller, I love a like a fiction. I don't really want to read to improve. That doesn't mean I'm not
Yeah.
reading to improve, of course, but it's not something that I would consider in the category of like down regulation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fair. And actually, you know what's funny is I read a book recently that actually talked about how like reading books about self-improvement, like their theory was on one hand, reading books about self-improvement are great. On another hand, they maybe only make you feel worse about issues that you now are discovering you have. And I
And
was
see,
like,
my
well,
husband goes like, I don't know how you can wind down and chill while reading thrillers. Like,
thriller.
fair
Yeah,
enough,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But my line of work is very different from his, so it doesn't create the same sensations in my body, right?
Absolutely. And actually, let me go back and say, in regards to the books, I don't read personal development books before bed. I
That's
don't read
fair. Yeah,
anything. No, no, because I also love to read for fun as well. And absolutely not. I'm only reading because I don't want my mind going. I want it relaxed and
exactly.
fun.
And as much as I said, like, I love to read a thriller, I put it out on Instagram, I think last month. I'm like, hey guys, I just need like a palate cleanser. Nothing with murder, kidnapping, like the dark stuff that's typically in thrillers. Because I know I'm in an elevated state right now, and I need something that's going to not make
Yeah,
that worse, right? But I
definitely.
knew that that was one of the things that was factoring in, and I think that, like we talked about, being able to kind of identify it is a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Side note, I just bought, it's supposed to be arriving today, a new book. I'm very excited. It's called The Other Einstein.
Oh,
Yes. So it is the
is it
story of,
a novel?
yeah, it's the story of Albert Einstein's wife and how the world doesn't know how involved she was in Einstein's discoveries.
Oh, that sounds good.
I know. I actually found it at a bookstore, but Steph and I, it was when we were on the Big Island. So we were like, we only traveled with carry-ons and I had like all these books. He's like, you can't buy all these books. Like we were at like a used bookstore. I love a used
I
book.
feel that I travel with a suitcase
Oh
mostly
my
books. I
gosh.
finally
Yeah.
got a Kindle this year.
Yeah, I've been debating getting one, but so I only bought one book from this bookstore, but I saw so many ideas, and this was one of them. I'm like, I got to read this book. So, anyways, I'm excited about this one, but
You'll have to keep us
um,
updated.
I will definitely. Yeah, we'll do an episode just on the books we're reading.
We could, honestly. I have a ridiculously high book goal this year, and I'm deep into it already.
What is your book goal this year? Because last year I thought it was high.
This year's 30.
Oh, okay. And what was
Yeah.
last year?
24, two per month.
Two per month. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, in my opinion, that is still high.
That's
That's
fair.
awesome
That's
though.
fair. I've always been a bookworm though. I was that kid that like stayed up till 4 a.m. reading under the covers, and my parents. Then I graduated to
That's
MSN.
awesome. But yeah,
But
reading is so great. But
I'm curious. So when you, because you've talked about how much you love to just like watch TV sometimes.
yeah,
Are you just watching TV,
or you mean versus like watching TV and being on my phone and doing
or
other.
doing something else?
It depends on the time of day. Like if I'm doing like random programming, like
I
just
program in
putting
front of the TV
together,
too,
yeah, just putting together
but I'll put
workouts.
on an old show I've seen 100 times.
Same. Yes, I'm not putting on something new that like I have to pay attention to. I'm putting on a show that like I love and it's kind of background. I don't really have to, I might listen to music, but sometimes I want the TV on in the
Yeah,
background, especially if I'm like alone for long periods of time. Like a TV feels very like more like company.
it's true.
Um,
But I think this is a
so
good place if you're working on removing some of the things that maybe keep you elevated, is even when you're taking moments of like, I'm going to sit down and chill, or I'm going to watch TV, make sure you're doing just that, and
yeah,
see how it feels.
yeah, this was part of the reason why I started putting my phone down because like I would be watching something and I'd be like, I just missed the last 10 minutes. Like I'm not really
Hmm.
paying attention. This is crazy. And so, yeah, I like to, and also like with ADHD, I realize that's doing multiple things at once is part comfort, part also
Yes.
like crippling.
Yes.
So, but watching TV for me, like there are certain things I won't watch before bed because I actually do find TV helps me get into a calm state. Every once in a while, I'll watch something where I'm like, I need to watch 10 minutes of something lighthearted.
Mm.
It really depends on what it is. That usually doesn't happen too often now because I'm usually pretty good at gauging things that will disturb my peace and I don't really like watching them anymore. But like even right now, I'm watching the new Netflix show on Netflix. Duh. I'm watching the new show. It's with the Olsen sister, the Olsen twin sister. If you guys didn't know, the Olsen twins have another sister.
Yeah, Elizabeth. What
Yeah,
show
there
is
we
it?
go. Um,
I didn't know she had a show on Netflix,
yeah, she's actually been in
except
a
for
bunch.
WandaVision or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right. I think she was the wife in that, right?
Yeah,
But
which is Wanda.
she's been in a lot. Oh, true. There we go. She's been in a lot of stuff lately that I've seen her in, but this new one is called like Love Death, and it's based off
Oh.
a true story. But it's not like really like scary. It's just drama. But anyways, yeah, I actually find watching TV, I get calm. Like it really
Mm.
helps me regulate my nervous system. I like get into a sleepy state. A lot of the time I fall asleep in front of the TV. So that's a big one for me. I know for other people they can't, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I could not fall asleep in front of TV. I remember being at sleepovers, and like this is going to tell everyone how old I am, but like you get to the point where it stops showing TV and it's showing you like a
Oh
hundred
yes.
best love songs for 9.99.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and
yeah. I
I'd be
remember.
awake just staring at the TV while everyone else was asleep.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
So
totally know that.
like, I try and like we talk about like nostalgia and stuff, but I kind of do keep an analog life. Like I switched from a smartwatch, I crochet, I do puzzles, board games, card games, I play the piano, stuff that is very much like I don't have to rely on technology for this, and that's
Yeah,
been really really helpful, and I've only
yeah,
started doing that in the last couple of years or so.
yeah,
Because for me, yeah, like I grew up in the era of social media, Facebook. I mean, I was on Facebook in what, 2006, 2007, and
yeah,
you were online talking to friends, you were in chat rooms and things like that. And so it wasn't until recently that I went, I am chronically connected,
yeah,
and I kind of miss being able to just not use my
yeah,
imagination, and
yeah,
like you think about it, like even watching kids, we used to just play in the dirt and
yeah,
now we're not, right? We want to be
yeah,
entertained in some capacity, and so I've made a really big effort to bring in like tactile things instead
yeah.
of
The screen.
what, yeah, like it's consuming
Modern day
other
technology.
media. Yeah,
Yep, yep. Well, this kind of yeah, why we said at the beginning talking about board games.
yeah.
It takes us back. It was a simpler time, as cheesy as that sounds, but that simpler time really did affect our body in simpler ways.
Hmm. And I think being present in what you're doing, like we think
Hmm.
about it so specifically in certain times, but like when you are cooking, I
Yeah,
always turn music on, and like
yeah,
I'm just in the zone. I got my music on. I'm cooking. Usually, I'm conversing with whoever's sitting in the kitchen,
yep,
but I used to cook with the TV on.
Yeah.
And that didn't help me feel present in what I was doing. And so
Oh,
it's
interesting.
about
Yep.
finding the combos that work for you too.
Definitely. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I can never, I'm very similar to you. Like, music actually allows me to be more present. I don't know what it is. Even when I'm with friends, when I'm with other people, I'm at a barbecue, I'm doing work, music actually makes me feel more present and calm.
I think because like
Whereas,
music physically, like you can feel it physically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they do say music plays into like a totally different part of the brain.
Yeah, and I mean, you can feel emotions in music,
Mhm.
whereas we don't get that really in anything else. You like you want to
Yeah.
have a good cry and you're feeling a little bit sad, put on a sad song. It's going to take you there, right?
Absolutely. It's funny you say how music, like, you can literally like feel it in your body, because one thing, I guess this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before through like um, physicality. But one thing I've been doing in the last year is giving really long hugs. Not
Hmm.
necessarily to like strangers. I don't want to like freak them out, but with the people that I am very close with, when you think about it, like, so many people, we rush through everything nowadays, including
It's true.
hugs. Like, people were like this like random weak limp, like, what is this, like spaghetti noodle arms? Like, there's no deep visceral, I don't know if visceral is the right word actually, but there's no deep connection anymore when
Yeah, because
people
isn't
give
it
hugs.
like a 20-second is the bare
Yep.
minimum for like a hug to be beneficial or something? I shouldn't say
Yep.
beneficial. Obviously, hugs are beneficial, but to like
Yep.
actually have a chemical reaction in your body.
Yeah. I can tell you guys, I've been doing this for, yes, like I said, quite a few months now. And when I first started doing it, even with my loved ones, I would literally say to them, because when you hold someone, you can feel who goes to pull away first. And I
Yes,
held tighter, and I'm like, I'm into really long hugs now. Like,
I love
whisper it
that.
creepily into their ear. But everyone that loves you, they kind of laugh and they hold on longer. And when you do, you go through that phase where you can feel almost like the tension and like awkwardness, and then you really feel that release,
Yeah, it melts
full
away.
body release. I cannot tell you how also nice it's been. It's kind of like feels like a way of saying I love you without verbally saying I love you. There is something so powerful about like regulating through connection with other people, because again, even as I said earlier on, right? Like, when I used to feel dysregulated, I would isolate, I wouldn't say anything. And that isolation, honestly, it only increases like the activation of your nervous system. Being
and
alone
and
is, that's
physical
why it makes it so
intimacy
hard.
is so beneficial in
Yeah.
downregulating. And I'm not saying this in like a with your partner. I mean, that's fine, obviously. But physical with the people you feel connected to. I
Yeah.
think one thing that I always find really interesting is you see a lot of physical intimacy in the gym
Yeah.
because people are there working on the same thing. You're like, oh, can you spot me? And nobody
Yeah.
questions that a random stranger is kind of assisting you, right? But
Yeah.
outside of places like that, we're very much like, no,
Yep.
and we kind of carry that with us. And like I'm not a hugger. I married into a hugger family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how my parents raised me different than my other siblings. My littlest brother is the most tactile person I've ever met. He's 24 now and he'll still come and just like rest his head on my shoulder
Aw.
because that is so soothing for him, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And because I grew up with him, it seems so natural, right? Like I don't question it. But if someone else were to do it, I would be like, whoa, whoa. But
Yeah.
really, it's the same thing. It's still beneficial, and I shouldn't shy away from that.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard because I mean, you are who you are. We don't want to like, you don't have to want to like convince yourself to be somebody else if it doesn't come naturally to you. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, sometimes challenging ourselves to do something different could be
And
a
I'm very
really big.
tactile in other ways. Like when I teach, I'm like, you cool if I put hands on? Like I'm not. It's not the human body that like icks me out. It's just
Yeah,
the moment it's a hug. I think probably because I'm scared to feel things, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
are
yeah.
these emotions,
That's
like
awesome. That's awesome. It's funny. I actually really like hugs, but and I know we've talked about this before, but I'm not like, in terms of love languages, I'm not a physical touch love
mm.
language person. So it's interesting. But honestly, you guys, I think like co-regulation is very real. I don't think that we are meant to self-regulate 24/7, right?
No, and this is why people will say like you'll sleep better with a dog, or
Yeah,
like that's
I don't
why
know.
when you're like you joke, you go to a party and you're out of place, you're gonna find the pet and hang out with them. But this is the reason for it, right? Like that
Mhm.
co-regulation. You can do that with humans too.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think as well, we talked earlier about like naming what it is that stresses you out. For some people, what stresses you out on a day to day basis, and I'm like this, not with everything, but certain situations, but it's the unknown. I think
Mm,
that like, um, people think that they need like less stress. They're like, I need to lower my stress. I need to reduce my stress. What they actually need is more predictability, right? So like this is where habits are so beneficial in your
yes.
life. Adding those anchors to your day, having your morning coffee ritual. I know you talked about that before, just in
Mhm.
our last couple episodes now. Having that evening walk. We tell a lot of our clients, like we give them a goal of having an evening walk every day, not just because it helps with digestion, but it literally helps regulate your nervous system.
Yes, like connecting with nature, fueling your body,
Yep.
reducing stimulants like caffeine and alcohol and things like that.
Yep.
There's a reason we encourage people to do those because they are all very valuable when it comes to having that structure.
Yeah. And like I know for me, even for a long time, I went through a phase of like where if I missed my workout, it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I missed my workout, I screwed up, because I could do it the next day, let's say, or, a day later or whatever it was. It was that my routine had been changed. My structure had been changed. That's why, again, routines matter way more than motivation does, right? Like having consistent workout days is a way that we start to look forward to regulating our nervous system.
And if you think about it too, like we start school at, age 4 or 5 and it's a structured bell schedule.
Yep.
So we're used to that. And then as adults, a lot of the time we end up in situations where we don't have that structure. So we do need to create it for ourselves. And like
Yep.
I thrive in structure to a flaw point almost because if
Yep.
it's not there, I'm falling apart. So
Yeah.
that's obviously something I have to work on. But um, if you think about it, we've created structure our whole lives or had it created for us. And then if you're lacking it, that might be a good place to to identify, right?
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned there just about like kind of reaction. For me, like I grew up in a reaction based household. Like we're upset, we react like very high. I mean, it's only women, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
very high emotions, reaction, reaction, reaction. And I have learned that it's easy for me to carry that over into every single aspect of my life. And I noticed that the reaction is what dysregulates my nervous system. There's something, I think, I don't know, somewhere along the way, we learned as a society that like we have to react to everything. You don't. You don't have
No.
to react to anything. It's okay for you to be indifferent about things. It's okay for you to be like, I really don't care.
Actually,
Like,
that's a huge point too, because we're talking about kind of like how heavy the world is right now.
yep,
And
separate.
this might be controversial, but when we're consuming a lot of this, sometimes I actually have to step back and say, is this something that I can
Yep,
be involved in? Is
yep.
this something that I have the tools or
Space
the
for.
wheelhouse to assist in any way? Because
Yep,
sometimes the answer is no.
yeah.
Honestly, a lot
And
of the time the answer is no. And so it
yep,
is stepping back from that and just saying
yeah.
this doesn't involve me.
Yeah, because I think, when stress does hit, like you're, a crying kid, yours or someone else's, traffic, a work email that you're just like, ugh, somebody said it in a way that it means something. Or honestly, it is like opening up social media and seeing something. Our nervous system just like spikes
Mm-hmm.
instantly. And the problem is that, like, for a lot of us, we tend to stay in that spike for hours, not actually because of our nervous system. Because I'm going to be real with you guys, when you look at the like science to this, I think that like surge in your nervous
It's
system
pretty
only
quick.
lasts, yeah, it's like 60 to 90 seconds from like a chemical perspective. So that's not the problem. The problem is the story you're attaching to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What triggered you? How dare they? I've been put out. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to stop.
Yeah.
And this is something I say to myself all the time, right? And not only do I say this to myself, but breathing has been a huge thing for me. Like literally, and I realized this when I started doing yoga myself as like a participant more regularly. That deep breathing, that slow, deep, full belly like breath in, that like release where you actually like, like afterwards, like, wow, how calming it is. It makes a really big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found
Yeah,
doing that. Sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say, like, even if like you do need to fight a battle,
Yeah.
right? You are involved. And I'm not saying don't be,
Yeah.
but maybe taking that pause, breathing through
Yes.
it, and figuring out the best approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or how does this involve me, even, right? Because sometimes the information we receive is not the way it is intended,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Or vice versa, right? We've given information and it is received very poorly, and that was not the intention behind it. And then there has to be that moment of like, okay, how do we move forward? And I think a lot of the time we don't take that moment.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What you just said, right? Like this is something that warrants a response, but that doesn't necessarily mean it warrants a response right now. Because
Yes,
again, we
because my
know.
response is always anger, and that is
Yes,
not a
because we're
healthy thing,
reacting.
right?
Yeah, yeah, we're reacting. And me too. And again, actually, I think it was that same book, that Being Present for Life. They talked about that, where like it 20 seconds, when something happens, even if you can give yourself 20 seconds, you will notice the difference in what you initially want to say to what you decide you're going to say 20, 60 seconds later. It's massively different. So, that's a work in progress for me. I'll be honest.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's
All
very
of these
easy to
things that we're
react.
doing and recommending doesn't mean it's a perfect system, right? We're
Yeah.
only human and we're taking it day by day. But that's the reality of it, taking it day by day. It is
Yeah.
okay to have a really rough day. It's
Yeah.
okay to have a day where you're super calm and then you wake up and you're like, my heart is pounding in my chest and I haven't even got out of bed yet. You're
Yeah.
human and you're learning how to navigate these things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. The last like really big one, I think for me, that I can't not bring up in this podcast episode, because it is so true to how I regulate. It is my time with God.
Hmm.
I know for me, and I also really connect with God in nature. So, like being outside, going for hikes, listening to the birds. Every day, pretty much every day, have daily devotionals. I spend time with God. A lot of the time lately, I know when things come up that feel triggering or feel stressful, I often ask myself, like, is it worth it? And then I also remind myself, like, God's got it under control, right? Like, I truly do believe that in the core of my being. And it is so stress relieving to know that, like, I don't have to figure it all out, because I'm putting it in the hands of the God who has literally everything under control. So for me, that's a really big one personally. I know everybody is on their own, walk of faith or otherwise. But yeah, that's a big one for me.
Hmm. And I think too, like, because of my background, I've kind of studied other um, areas of religion and things like that.
Yeah.
And even when we look at like addiction treatments, there's always that like higher connection, higher power, whatever that is for you,
Yeah.
because it tells you you're not doing it alone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to what we said before about the co-regulation. It's huge. You look at the studies on like people who spend their life alone, and people, they don't live as long, they don't live as healthy. Community exists for a reason. It's a gift in our life for a reason. So if you guys don't have a community right now, I highly, first of all, encourage you to do something risky and like get involved in, some type of
In
hobby, put
anything,
yourself
yeah.
out
Find
there.
a community. Honestly, finding a
Yeah.
community in person, don't get me wrong, I have a huge community online, but in person with a
Such a
shared interest is so
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah.
Take a class, join a theater troupe, join a tap dance class. I don't know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go take a class at the library,
Yeah.
something like that. It gets you out of the house. Because for me, you need to change your spaces sometimes, because
Yeah.
that can give you new perspective and that can honestly help just kind of take you out of whatever you're feeling. Because sometimes those emotions, those sensations are tied to locations too.
Yep.
And
Definitely.
we trap ourselves in them because
Yeah.
it feels scary to leave. And so by joining community, it gets you out of that. And I think that's really helpful too.
Oh yeah. When I'm living on the island, the gym that I go to, it's a bomb gym equipment wise. There's another gym that has like insane equipment, but you know what? I don't go there because the vibe is not it for me. The gym that I go to here is one of the best communities I've ever experienced in any gym I've gone to ever. You walk in that door and like if you're not a hugger, you're going to become one, because everybody is hugs all the time. How you doing? Look at you in the face. Like we have, regular events together. It's the community aspect in any area of your life will contribute massively to your life, period.
Mhm.
It's I totally agree with everything Nell just said. So I mean, do you have anything
So
else to add?
no, let's be done.
That's it. I
Bye. No.
have to regulate by eating, which is another actually really important thing. Don't
Yes.
forget, guys, right? Like there's lots of little things like shrinking your to-do list, taking those like mini, micro, whatever you want to call it, movement breaks, eating regularly, sleeping regularly. Of course, there's supplements. These are all other ways that you should definitely be looking to regulate your life if that's something you're currently struggling with.
Yeah, but I think to summarize, kind of the biggest thing is maybe identify,
Yep.
right?
Always. Yep.
And pull back in the areas you need to and find ways to fill up your cup. And
Yeah.
they don't have to be big. You don't have to do it all at once. Start small, see how it feels,
Yep.
and find your community. I would say that's probably one of the things that might be hard for some of us or
Yep.
hardest for some of us, but it's definitely worth doing.
So worthwhile. Yeah. Hopefully this helped you guys in some way or just gave you a little bit more insight to the fact that one, you are not alone. We are all
Mm-mm.
struggling. And yeah, two, just some different things that you guys can try. As always, if this was helpful for you guys, we'd love it if you left us a comment, if you would share this on social media and tag us. Our what's it called? Usernames will be tagged for you
Yeah, our
guys below.
Instagram handles.
And likewise, I mean, if you guys are at a point right now where you're just feeling alone in your fitness journey and you're like, I would like more community there, think about joining our team. We have a phenomenal community that, first of all, we just talk on a regular in a community chat. We do at least once a month live calls all together. And I know it makes a really big difference, especially from the fitness side of things where you can often just feel alone. So there will be a link for you guys to check that out more below. And probably we'll be doing the Q&A next week.
We're doing a Q&A 7 episodes later.
Just dangle the carrot. Dangle
Yeah,
the
so
carrot.
if you're following us on social media, make sure you get those questions in and we'll answer them next time.
Beautiful. Have a phenomenal week, cousins. We will see you guys next week.